It was actually a question that came from Father Zollner's mention of "I am because we are," the proverb, and then picking up on those two studies that you mentioned, the Swiss study, I think, on common good, and the other study on concern for others. And I was thinking that those are both ideas that had a potential for intervention, because what happens, and not just on a collectivistic, individualistic society basis, but when we are isolated, we become very obsessed with ourselves, our own angst, and as a potential intervention, helping to, all right, how does this matter to me? How does this matter to others? What can I do? Might be a way to help. It's not self-regulation exactly, but it's another way to help regulate. And it might have real potential, I think, for an intervention. I just thought, I picked up on that and I thought, this is very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's motivating. I think that's.
During the pandemic, especially in isolation, and to move folks away from that and to find interventions that can do that, I think would be a possible way forward.
It's really that the idea, cultures may motivate different forms of behavior during a crisis. I mean, that's essentially what the Swiss study is trying to show.
We can open the general discussion. We have 20 minutes for general discussion. So if you want, in the contrary, we can go to eat, to lunch. There are some questions here. Please.
So I just wanted to go back to Jeff's idea about the spreading online education in less developed countries. And there was a recent paper in PNAS by Per Engel and a couple of people at Oxford that studied the Netherlands, which is kind of the best case for online education. I don't know if you've seen this, but they did testing of kids before the pandemic, and it was separated by about 4 months. And so there was testing like 3 years ago, and then right before the pandemic, they tested the kids, and then 4 months later, they tested the kids. And they had reached out and given electronic devices to all the kids in the Netherlands. There's really universal access to the internet. And what they found was that there was zero learning during that period compared to 3 years ago. And that the kids at the bottom of the distribution lost more achievement than the kids at the top. And I'm also thinking about the edX fiasco, which was pouring all this money into universal access to online education for college and university education. And I think what it showed was that people who were highly motivated and already educated did well, and it reached maybe very few people who had the self-discipline, young people who could, do the Khan Academy or something like that. But I really worry about the people who would be left behind in that situation because and I understand now that we're talking about 100% of them being left behind, and you're talking about trying to reach, more people. But I'm just skeptical about the technological solution.
Sorry.
Jeff, this is your opportunity to bring us more optimism.
This is also a very important question. Maybe Ernesto would say something about some dangers that we have in internet, because it's terrible, the situation many times. So of course, But there are a very negative aspect that we need to put order in this. In the contrary, it's terrible. For maybe, Ernesto, could you say something about this? The dignity of child in the internet.
No. No, I like to excuse me because I was not present at the discussion before because it was in a national meeting about pedophilia, and that is an issue that we face now in our country. But speaking about digital opportunity for children, we have now to face the problem that digital issue, digital instrument are absolutely very important, but the risk for children are very wide. I will speak about after this afternoon. My worry is about the fact that the digitalization of the world of children is start very early, and we have no knowledge about the effect of this situation in development of the cognitive emotional process of the development of children. From one side, that the new opportunity as the metaverse give the children the opportunity to be alone in a very open universe of digital experience, gaming or exchange of image and exchange of tools. And this create a very special new world for children that are attracted by this new era. And the parents are, in many cases, absent in this process. And I think that we have to work more in research in this field. We did in this wonderful place in Casina 2 years ago, a very important conference about child dignity in the digital world with Oliver that make his opening, and with Kevin Perrin at the end, with many experts in this field, and with the religious leaders that were involved in this process. I think this is a very crucial area, and I think we can speak about this too after that in this afternoon.
So the question is some control. We need to have some ethic control about this instrument. In the contrary, no education. It's just the contrary of education. So, Jeffrey, sorry, but I think this is very important to put in the table.
Yeah, of course, we don't know the answer to this, but I'm looking at the research. I don't think that this is how we're going to know also, because an experiment where kids in an emergency are quickly thrown online suddenly and for 8 weeks is not really a measure of the technology. It's a measure of an emergency. I know from anecdotal experience of my own granddaughters, it was from one day to the next that they went online. The teachers were not trained. There was no online curriculum. There was, it was interesting to watch. They certainly learned a lot about how to use the computer, how to send homework assignments, how to download assignments, how to send voice files, how to do all sorts of things I don't know how to do. They're 6 and 8, and they became quite adept at the tools. It is unnerving to watch your 3 granddaughters with their headphones on in front of their tablets going to school, but it was functional, and I would say that it was without any thought, preparation, any sense of blending, because there are many things that one can do. In a poor country, in rural areas, there are no qualified teachers, and there's no budget for them. So we have to also ask, what is the counterfactual, or what is the baseline? If in that setting, the kids are in school, but their 3 hours online are in a math class with someone from the capital city that is qualified in that, and there's a local teacher to help them, and so there's interaction, and there's a blend, but it's using the technology. Intuitively, to me, this is a big potential. Also, I've been, I shouldn't admit, I'm teaching all my classes still online, and Meet my classes, Savannah sets everything up so she knows, pedagogically, I think it is not ideal, but it is 80% or 90%. And so I also don't view edX as a fiasco exactly. I view it as the beginning of a new way. In most areas of the economy, we'll go digital, in fact. We are already basically going digital, and a lot of healthcare will go digital. A lot of education will go digital in training or in other things. Payments is all going to go digital. We won't even have cash soon, and some places already are eliminating cash transactions and so on. I think it's a matter of design to an important extent, but recognizing all of the things, we definitely don't want to live in Mark Zuckerberg's metaverse. The whole idea is terrifying to me. Almost anything he thinks up is terrifying to me. So I don't want to suggest some magical solution, but I do believe this is a powerful tool that we should use. And I know areas where it's made a complete difference. The payment system, for example. Most of rural areas in poor countries never had a bank. Now people actually routinely make payments on their phone. It's not even, they're ahead of Manhattan in that in many places. That's completely routine. And I think that that will happen in a lot of areas, in reading x-rays and digital health and monitoring. And I think it will happen in education as well. And again, just to say, we should be thinking about how to make it work, in what ways it can complement. But I'm interested in it in part because the baseline in poor countries is not Netherlands schools. The baseline is no schools, no qualified teachers, no teachers with a college education, no materials. And also, I don't think we should assume that the equipment and the technology will not be there. I'm working a little bit with the Reliance in India, which is rolling out smartphones at very, very low cost, hundreds of millions very quickly. So also the pace of change is unlike things that we've seen before. So it's not $600 phones, it'll be $50 phones that can functionally, or tablets or whatever the appliance is, the device. I'll stop there.
Thank you very much. Now, just to complement on this critical issue of digital learning and the use of technology in transforming education, we are about releasing some interesting data. We already have, I will talk about that later in the afternoon, so I don't want you to waste time on things that I'm supposed to elaborate a little bit. But I would say we have bad news and good news. There are qualitative as well as quantitative data on the effect of technology and digital learning in the pandemic. And What we can say to summarize, the title of this report is not by chance EdTech Tragedy with question mark. We are hesitating to put or not the question mark. I mean, it's about keeping a balanced approach, not stigmatizing technology as replacing the physical and comprehensive approach to education, which is very much more and broader than this. And there are, you know, also these findings from psychosocial research, which are very clear on that, and also about learning outcomes and measurement of learning losses. However, on the other side, honestly, we don't see any transforming education which doesn't include digital learning. So either we drive based on ethical principles, on a human-oriented approach, and this is what UNESCO is very much keen to do, both in terms of normative instruments and pedagogies, and all the transformation, including teachers, training, and content development, curriculum change, and so. Or we leave digital learning and metaverse and all the big transformation which is going on in the big companies, in the private sector, without, you know, keeping the door open to discussion, dialogue, and also taking a collective responsibility on that. So maybe this is the kind of approach we have to share and start to discuss openly with.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I would share very much what you just said now. And I would underline again that we don't have data as of yet what is really working in online education and what not. We are at least at the mass level. There are things that you can't teach easily online. I mean, I have been teaching my psychotherapy classes online, and that is very strange thing to do. But other areas, other subjects, obviously you can teach much easier. What I would like to say is we are at a level in which we realize the complexity of things, and it is not by polarizing pro or against online education. We have no choice, period. It is there and it will go on and it will be developing. So better we go in the line, as you just said, that we think what pedagogy is behind that. We have been now in this internet era for 30 years or so. Where are we with the pedagogy of this? In what did we invest there? So where did we put it? Second bridge. I mean, we have been here in this house some months ago with one of the big players in the field. We have been talking to one of the big five in the internet business and the social media. And there are people who are really listening and they are interested in doing something, for example, in protecting minors from sexual and other kinds of exploitation. It's not black and white there. Thirdly, I want to make also a point for money. We need money, and money won't go away. So we won't change the capitalist tendency. What we would need to is to have more conscientized company leaders and stakeholders who are investing in the humanization of what we strive for. So just by pointing out the dark sides and the difficulties that we encounter, I think we limit our own creativity and our thinking outside the box and our possible impact. Thank you.
Please. The last one intervention, because please, let us go to lunch, please.
Didn't even, although my thinking sort of evolved while I was listening to the good comments, and I was waiting because I thought that it would have been better to raise some of the comments I wanted to raise after I listened to my good colleague. in UNESCO, who knows all of these issues really well. Just to, what I'm hearing is all aligned with my and UNICEF's thinking. Huge potential for digital learning, obviously. 3 core words for us: access, design, and equity. And the one thing, obviously, which we came back to in the conversation, which I think where Jeffrey, you surprised me a little bit with your positivism, which was very, very important to hear, though. Obviously, you know much better than me the situation in terms of electricity and internet access in Africa. I think still less than half of children in many parts of Africa actually have access to internet. So the whole issue around who can access internet and who can access this digital learning, and I think we've seen during the pandemic that it's not a very rosy picture still. And then the other issue in relation to design, obviously, is the issue which relates to, how do children learn? And yes, if there are no teachers available, or if teachers cannot teach, or if they don't come to the classroom, or if they do other things than teach in the classroom, that is not something which is going to be competing with good online learning for those who can access it. But also the design of the online learning is so incredibly important. So access, design, and of course the whole equity issue. And in that context, I just wanted to mention, conscious of the time, the issue of the children who we lost to learning, not just the poverty learning that was already there before the pandemic, but the girls who went into child marriage and who will not come back, and who potentially could have come back to school which reopened if there was lots of efforts, but who will not come back online. And the children who went to child labor, and we have figures on both of these issues, and the picture again is not a rosy picture. So those children who are out of school is going to find it even more difficult to come back to school into a digital learning environment if there is no access to internet. So yes, lots of issues here, and I'd like to be very positive about the potential, but I'm also very conscious and very careful and very concerned about the reality that we see out there. Thank you. Basta. Grazie.
Please, Jeff, you are so intelligent that you can summarize in 1 minute.
It's possible to get devices and electrification and connectivity anywhere now at low cost. Low cost means billions of dollars to do this. It does not mean hundreds of billions of dollars or tens of billions of dollars or impossibility. Make a plan. Actually, UNICEF and UNESCO, make a plan. Count the schools with your school counting program. This is what we need. 3 panels, we need this connectivity, we need this. Add up the unit costs, put it in a spreadsheet, deliver it to Elon Musk, say, okay, it's only $3 billion. Thank you.